Wisdom, it's okay. Popular. Is it okay? And you can't leave your table like this, Wisdom.
That's what they look for. One is the thing, we just pull it because we don't have this thing.
No, but you should have made it go through the ground, rather. Agency will not come off. This on top of cover the table, so no go show. And he said, you can do what? Where is this ending at? Where is this ending at? Why is the mic on?
of Nations and the dissolution of Parliament. 3 officers, 96 ratings, and the Ghana Navy Band ready for inspection. Lieutenant Commander Michael Kujo reports to Your Excellency. Aye, Your Excellency.
EMS1, pay attention to the Motorola, on the mic, over.
salute. 3, charge, up.
Mr. Speaker.
All right, my best prayers.
Almighty God, we humbly beseech thee to look with favor upon this Parliament of the Republic of Ghana. Grant that it may perform its hard duties in their sight. Give divine guidance to the President of the Republic. Endow members of Parliament and ministers of state with discernment and vision, integrity and courage, that through the labors of government, this land and people may be well and truly served, and their good purposes for the common human life be realized in our midst. O God, grant us a vision of our country, fair as it might be, a country of righteousness, where none shall wrong his neighbor, a country of plenty, where evil and poverty shall be done away with, a country of brotherhood, where all success shall be founded on service, and honor shall be given to the deserving. A country of peace, where government shall rest on the will of the people and the love for the common good. Bless the efforts of those who struggle to make this vision a living reality. Inspire and strengthen our people, that they may give time, thought, and sacrifice to speed the day of the coming beauty of Ghana and Africa. Amen. Honourable members, may I invite the Honourable Majority Leader and the Honourable Minority Leader to join me to receive His Excellency, the President, at the Central Lobby. No waste of time. I hope so. That's my prayer too. Honourable members, the House is privileged to have the presence of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, President of the Republic of Ghana, and Commander-in-Chief of the Ghana Armed Forces in the House. His Excellency the President is here in accordance with Article 67 of the Constitution of the Republic to deliver a message on the state of the nation to this House prior to the dissolution of this Parliament. On behalf of leadership and honourable members of this August House, it is my privilege and singular honour to welcome His Excellency the President to the House. Honourable members, I have the greatest pleasure to invite His Excellency the President to deliver his message. Your Excellency, you may now deliver your address.
Your Excellency the Vice President, Right Honourable Speaker, Your Ladyship the Chief Justice, Honourable Members of Parliament. Mr. Speaker, allow me to begin by wishing everyone a happy New Year, and let me say Afi Shepa. This hall that exists within these walls is a place where I've always felt at home. It was in this August House, as an MP for Bole Bamboy, that I began my political career. Or better said, it was when I first held public office. The residents of that community, Bole Bamboy, entrusted me with the privilege of representing their best interests in the national dialogue of policy making and legislation. It seems fitting that I should find myself here in this same House, delivering my final public address, which will in effect bring to a close my tenure as President. I deliver this message on the state of the nation in fulfillment of Article 67 of the 1992 Constitution in advance of the dissolution of Parliament. It has been a rare honor and privilege for me to serve my country in the highest office as President. It has been a worthwhile journey, and let me seize the opportunity to thank God for His grace and to the good people of Ghana for the opportunity to serve you. May I also respectfully thank my Vice President, Mr. Speaker, Her Ladyship the Chief Justice, and honourable members of this House for the cooperation and solidarity I have enjoyed during my tenure as President. Mr. Speaker, the purpose of this specific State of the Nation address is to let the people of Ghana know where we stand as a country as the baton of leadership pass from one leader to another. Where are we in this race, so to speak, insofar as nation building, and how is Ghana faring when compared to other nations in Africa and of course in the world? Our world has become an increasingly complex one and unpredictable. Majority of economies around the world are sailing against strong headwinds. The world economic crisis and the slowdown in the growth of the Chinese economy has affected the growth of emerging markets and has resulted in a fall in world demand for commodities. As the United States of America makes a slow but steady recovery, the recent increases in the US interest rates means more money is leaving emerging markets and being reinvested back in the US. Coupled with the fall in commodity prices on the international market, this is causing an adverse economic outlook for lower middle-income economies like ours. Changing climate has made the world weather more unpredictable in our part of the world. Deforestation, sea erosion, tidal waves, erratic rainfall, more severe harmattan are becoming the new normal. These are wreaking havoc on non-irrigated agriculture and power production from hydro sources. The rise of insurgency and failed states in North Africa and the Middle East and religious fundamentalism have resulted in a rise of many terrorist cells that have created a deadly cocktail across the whole world and increasingly in Africa, stretching from the Sahel through West Africa, Central Africa, East Africa, all the way to the Horn of Africa. Our sub-region has not been spared, and attacks as close as Burkina Faso and Côte d'Ivoire have brought the reality of possible terrorist attacks closer to our doorsteps. This is the global context in which our country has had to survive and make progress. Mr. Speaker, at the start of our term in office and for many years prior, there have been national dissatisfaction at the declining standards of education at the basic and secondary levels. Lack of access to both basic and secondary education has meant that many children were being left behind. A shortage of professionally trained teachers, teacher absenteeism, shortage of core textbooks, resulting in a situation in which 4 children shared 1 textbook. Dilapidated schools, lack of science laboratories and workshops, among others, manifested in declining results at the Basic Education Certificate Examination BECE and West African Secondary School Certificate Examination WASI. Our vision under my administration has been to turn this situation around and not only improve access to education, but also improve the quality of education. Mr. Speaker, we're witnessing a significant improvement in our educational outcomes. More children than ever before in our history are having access to education at the basic and secondary levels. With the distribution of free textbooks, children have access to all the core textbooks and no longer have to share. In excess of 2,000 dilapidated schools, popularly referred to as schools under trees, have been replaced. Teachers are more available and are more evenly distributed than has been the case in the past. Teacher absenteeism is down from 27% to below 9%. Mr. Speaker, this has led to more engagement hours between teachers and students. The construction and population of 47 newly built community-day senior high schools means that more students are able to continue their education beyond the basic level instead of dropping out of school. These investments we have made are yielding results and reflecting in the performance of our children. Performance at both the Basic Education Certificate Exam, the BECE, and the West African Secondary School Certificate Exam, the WASI, have seen remarkable improvement. The very last batch of BECE students recorded the highest number of students obtaining a raw score of above 500 marks in the history of this examination. Mr. Speaker, we're recording improved performance in many public schools in the WASI across the country. During the Best School Awards ceremony, many rural and public schools are outperforming some of the better-known urban and private schools. Ghana has consistently, over the last 3 years, taken the 3 top spots in the West African School Certificate Examination. Mr. Speaker, the progressively free secondary education program, under which we have absorbed the major fees paid by day students, has this year been extended to cover 140,000 boarding school students. At the tertiary level, the construction of additional public universities in the Brong-Ahafo and Volta regions have improved access to university education. The shortcutting for work to start on the University of Environment and Sustainable Development in the Eastern region, the conversion of our polytechnics into technical universities, the creation of 3 autonomous universities out of the University for Development Studies are all creating additional opportunities for students to pursue courses at the tertiary level. Mr. Speaker, in the area of healthcare, the situation was no different. Many Ghanaians were denied access to quality healthcare. Although in 2004, the Kufuor administration had commenced one of the most famous social intervention programs in the health sector on a broader scale, after years of experimentation, the National Health Insurance Scheme utilization was low due to lack of access to health facilities. The sector was characterized by a severe shortage of trained health professionals. Our vision over the period of my administration has been to provide improved health facilities and trained health workers in all nooks and crannies of the country. Construction of new regional hospitals in Bolgatanga, Wa, and Accra is dramatically improving the health outcomes for tens of thousands of people. New district hospitals in districts across the country including the recent ones for which I just cut sword in Hueta to cover Somanya, Buipe, Tolong, and Sola, have and will advance even further our policy of providing every district with a first-class health facility. Mr. Speaker, new polyclinics, health centers, and CHIPS compounds have also helped to bring quality health care to the doorsteps of our people. This development has resulted in a phenomenal expansion of utilization of the NHIS. Outpatient utilization for 2015 stood at 29 million, up from 9 million in 2008. Increased numbers of trained professionals being churned out of our training institutions has solved the problem of lack of personnel to man our health facilities. Indeed, at the rate at which this category of personnel are being produced, Ghana may need to sign agreements with less endowed countries to officially deploy some of our health professionals to assist improve their health systems. Mr. Speaker, as a lower middle income country, income disparities widen the gap between the rich and the poor. To cushion the poor and vulnerable, many social protection programs have been introduced in Ghana. At the start of this administration, the number of people benefiting from these schemes were very few. Under the school feeding program, less than 500,000 children were being fed. Under the Livelihood Empowerment Against Poverty program, less than 60,000 households were benefiting. Few children had access to books, school uniforms, and school sandals. Mr. Speaker, our effort under this administration has been to expand the coverage of these programs to cover the majority of the poor and vulnerable population in Ghana. The school feeding program is better managed today under the auspices of the Ministry of Gender, Children, and Social Protection and covers more than 1.5 million children. The LEAP program is benefiting almost 150,000 households. The percentage of District Assembly Common Fund meant for persons with disability has been increased by 50%. And school children in public schools are receiving all their core textbooks. Tens of thousands of children have benefited from the free school sandals and free uniforms program. Mr. Speaker, the introduction of the EBAN card also means that vulnerable ones among the elderly are receiving some privileges and protection. One of the essentials of life for which social exclusion was evident was in access to clean drinking water. Many rural and urban communities were water-starved. Statistics indicate that by the year 2008, 56% of rural people and 58% of urban dwellers had access to potable water. This meant that waterborne diseases were a major affliction and created a heavy incidence of disease on our healthcare system. The universal target is to achieve water for all by the year 2025. Mr. Speaker, our vision has been to achieve this target well in advance of the target date. We have therefore, under my administration, continued to increase investment in the provision of clean drinking water for our people. Provision of boreholes, small town water systems, and major urban water treatment projects have significantly increased access to clean drinking water. Statistics at the end of 2015 show that in excess of 76% of both rural and urban residents have access to potable water. The Teshi desalination plants, the Kong Water Expansion Project, the Accra-Tema Metropolitan Project, Area Project have expanded access to urban water supply in the capital city, Accra. Areas that were traditionally water-starved, like Adenta, Teshi, and others today, have access to sufficient drinking water. Mr. Speaker, the WA Water Supply Project, the 3Ks project covering Kumau, Konongo, and Kwawu are all projects guaranteeing sustainable water supply to people in these areas. We estimate that under this administration, we've lifted more than 7 million people out of water deprivation. Mr. Speaker, the early years of this government was characterized by a crippling power crisis. The shortage of power led to a very unpopular load management program. This shortage of power hobbled the growth of our economy and affected both business and residential customers. Many businesses had to resort to the use of generators to survive. Mr. Speaker, I stood on the floor of this very august House and took full responsibility for the crisis and promised that I'll do my utmost to fix the problem. It has taken a lot of hard work and effort. Mr. Speaker, it has taken a lot of hard work and effort. Fast-tracking the deployment of emergency plans and speeding up the completion of ongoing plans ensured that we added more than 800 megawatts of power over an 18-month period. This increased generation, in addition to the energy sector levy and ongoing works to restructure the legacy debt of the power utilities, has helped to stabilize the power situation in our country. With the expectation of more domestic gas from the TEN and Sankofa fields, Ghana is entering into an era of energy self-sufficiency. Indeed, the warning signals have started sounding about the danger of overcapacity and excess redundancy in our power generation sector. We have agreed to work with the World Bank to rationalize the addition of new plants and ensure that we achieve optimum utilization of existing plant capacity. Mr. Speaker, access to power under my administration has continued to increase. Ghana has one of the highest access to electricity, estimated to be above 80% currently. Additional pending electrification programs like the China Water Company program and the Hunan Energy projects will bring even more communities onto the national grid. Mr. Speaker, we inherited an economy that was running a high deficit with increasing inflation and interest rates. It was also characterized by a rapidly depreciating currency. This unstable macroeconomic environment created an unfavorable investment environment both for indigenous and foreign capital. Our forum at Senchi was an attempt to forge a consensus for a homegrown fiscal consolidation program. Mr. Speaker, the Senchi outcome eventually became the basis for the IMF extended credit facility that we are implementing. The ECF program, as it's called, has resulted in an improved macro environment, which has seen a steady decline in inflation and interest rates. A new public debt management strategy is also seeing a steady decline in the public sector debt, estimated to have dropped from nearly 75% to below 65% currently. Our currency, the cedi, has also this year enjoyed relative stability, depreciating at just above 4% this year. Mr. Speaker, while the deficit target for this year might be missed on account of inability to meet revenue targets, it is important for us to continue to pursue fiscal consolidation in the third and final year of the IMF program. Multiple causes are responsible for this inability to meet the target. Reduced lifting from the Jubilee field on account of the turret-bearing problems, non-realization of some expected non-tax revenues such as the sale of electromagnetic spectrum, reduced cocoa export revenues, and higher than expected election-related expenditures. In spite of the breach of the fiscal deficit target, expenditure was lower than programmed, and thus the approved appropriation for 2016 was not exceeded. Mr. Speaker, it is my belief that we continue a diligent implementation of the IMF program till the end of 2017 in order that we can create a stable and sustainable economy. Mr. Speaker, Ghana's economy is still the second largest in West Africa, with a GDP of almost $39 billion. Ghana has also moved up 13 places in the Ease of Doing Business Index and is currently considered number 1 on the World Bank Index for West Africa. Mr. Speaker, there was widespread dissatisfaction with the road network in the country. Complaints covered poor state of urban roads, feeder roads, and highways. Many hours of sitting in traffic cause frustration and discomfort for urban commuters. Poor feeder roads and pothole-ridden highways increased maintenance costs for drivers and in turn led to increased fares and transport charges for goods. My tenure of office has seen some of the most massive investments in the road sector in the history of Ghana. My vision was to finish off road projects inherited, such as Achimota of Ankor, Awoshi Pokwase, Soko Line, Tetekwashe Adenta, etc. We also commenced and completed the Kwame Nkrumah interchange. We fast-tracked the construction and opening of the Kaswa overhead bridge. We completed the Airport Hills Bema Camp network of roads and completed the 37 Elwak Trade Fair Road. We've also invested more resources in continuing the Eastern Corridor Road project, asphalt overlay of roads in regional and district capitals, and massive investments in cocoa roads across the country. These have opened up our country significantly. Many other projects are ongoing, such as the Tema Motorway Runabout Decongestion Project, a new bridge from Flower Pot Runabout on the Spintex Road over the Accra-Tema Motorway into East Legon. The others ready to commence with financing arranged, such as the Obichebi-Lamte Interchange, the Pokwase Interchange, and the Motorway Expansion Project, amongst others. Mr. Speaker, the transport sector has also experienced marked improvements under this administration. Incentives such as reduction in cost of aviation fuel, improved airport infrastructure has seen a massive increase in both domestic and international travel. The Terminal 3 project at the Kotoka International Airport is progressing fast, and when completed will make Accra the most favored aviation destination in the whole of West Africa. Already the completed rehabilitation of the arrival hall in Terminal 2 has created much better comfort for passengers using Accra Airport. Kumasi and Tamale Airport expansion will also see increased passenger movement domestically. WA and HO are advancing steadily and hope to be open to commercial travel soon. Commencement of the bus rapid transit with dedicated bus lanes, christened Ayalolo Express, will create better comfort for urban commuters. Urban rail systems like the Sekendi Kojokrom Takrade line will ease the inconvenience of commuters in the twin cities. The Tema Akosombo line will soon start to maximize the use of the Volta Lake Transport Company for moving cargo for landlocked Sahelian countries up the Volta River to Buipe in the northern region. Work on the expansion of our two maritime ports at Takrady and Tema are ongoing and would lead to faster turnaround times for ships and larger throughput cargo volumes. Bulk cargo handling will also be more efficient. Mr. Speaker, our security forces were severely challenged when it came to logistics and equipment to fulfill their constitutional mandate. Today I can report with pride that vehicles, armored personnel carriers, riot control equipment, aircrafts, helicopters, fire tenders make up a few of the components of the investments we have made in our security services. Mr. Speaker, vehicles for judges and completion of the court complex has created a better atmosphere for the dispensation of justice. Implementation of the National Anti-Corruption Action Plan, which was unanimously adopted by this August House, remains on track. I wish to commend this House for the passage of numerous legislation, including the recent Public Financial Management Act, which strengthens our hands in the fight against corruption. I must, however, point out that public and civil society organizations are disappointed in our inability to pass the Right to Information Bill and are still hopeful that before this Parliament is dissolved at midnight on the 6th of January, a consensus can be found to pass this bill into law. Mr. Speaker, the achievements outlined in this statement are accomplishments that my government and I can proudly claim. But the state of our nation at any given time, where we are in the race, is the result of more than the visible gains made by one individual during his tenure. Every president inherits the unfinished work of his predecessor. Every president benefits from the seeds planted by his predecessor. Seeds that could not be sown during his predecessor's tenure. Mr. Speaker, indeed I believe if politics could be described as a sport, the one it would most closely resemble is a relay race. It is a sport that relies as much on the individual's achievement as it does on teamwork and cooperative effort. The true test of that competition is in the passing of the baton. So too with politics. Mr. Speaker, President Jerry John Rawlings started the structural transformation of this economy under the Economic Recovery Program. This program restored Ghana to a path of growth, which he handed over to President